Hello, I'm David Haig, the CEO and Chairman of Brand Finance, and I have the pleasure of having set it up 25 years ago. In fact, it was making me think how ironic it was that when I set it up, Brand Finance started in our back bedroom with me making phone calls to clients. And here we are 25 years later, I'm in the back bedroom doing a Zoom call to all of our followers, listening to subjects of a very similar nature. So in a sense, nothing has changed in the last 25 years. But in many other respects, things have changed a lot. The landscape for brands has changed dramatically, partly because branding has become a much more professionalized subject, and serious audiences of finance people, corporate people, strategy people are now looking and talking about brands regularly. And in the old days, brands used to be focused largely on consumer goods and consumer brands. Nowadays, I think they're much more heavily focused on corporate brands and all manner of different brands. You know, even the royal family like to consider themselves a brand these days. So after about 10 years of running Brand Finance, we decided that we would have an annual event where we all met and networked and talked about the issues. And we've been doing it ever since. And it's a great shame that during COVID, we were prevented from actually meeting. So we've been doing them online. And this year we were going to meet at the RAC Club, but we decided it would be more appropriate to defer it. And so we've got these three webinars. We kept them short because we know that everybody likes to have a short webinar. So the first one was on global versus local brands and whether or not the emphasis on global is going up or down. And we had an extremely interesting discussion with Vodafone, Shell, and the International Advertising Association about the pros and cons of local versus global brands. The second subject today is another very hot topic, which has changed over the 25 years we've been doing Brand Finance. And that's the subject of purpose, brand purpose then and now. I mean, a lot of people think that it's a very recent thing, but I think people have been talking about social purpose ever since we started, just that the debate has really speeded up. But very often when people are talking about purpose, there's a confusion about exactly what they mean. And I hope today's session will be a very good opportunity to explore that and understand what really is meant by purpose and what difference it makes and how much more important it is to brands today than it was. And I'm pleased to say that we're joined by Celine Igitbasi-Ducker, who used to work for Brand Finance many years ago, but is now the founder and CEO of Goodsted, a social social purpose business, Cameron Kinsella of the Aster Foundation, and Harish Bhatt, who's brand custodian at Tata Sons. And each will give us a brief presentation, and then we will have a Q&A, which will be moderated by Robert Haig, who is our Strategy and Insight Director. So before I hand over, I'd just like to say thank you very much to all of our partners, particularly Tata Consultancy Services and the World Trademark Review, the Foreign Press Association, and the Museum of Brands. We're very grateful for your support, and we look forward to a meeting and having a proper physical event at some point in 2022. So with that, I will hand to Robert. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I'm supposed to hand to Celine. Robert will come after the speakers. So I'm going to hand to Celine to give her presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, David, for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with such an inspiring cohort of speakers. And in the next 10 minutes, I'll be sharing Goodsted's story and some useful insights. I'll specifically focus on why and how to engage your employees and other stakeholders, such as customers, suppliers, and partners, to activate your purpose. Next slide, please. So I founded Goodsted 3 years ago with the vision to co-create a world where every member of the society can easily contribute to social and environmental progress. It all began when I wanted to volunteer my skills, but couldn't find the right kind of opportunities. I then found one project after quite a bit of research and helped them find volunteers, and that's how the seeds of Goodsted were planted. So then I realized these pain points were also being felt at an organizational level by employers and program managers looking to find the right opportunities to engage their employees and stakeholders in volunteering. Next to this, they were faced with the additional challenge of tracking engagement and participation in their programs and reporting on the impact created. So it took a few iterations, but we built a digital platform that helps match nonprofits and projects with individuals who have the skills to support them. Later, we expanded this offer to continue developing the platform as a software solution for businesses to help them engage their employees and stakeholders in causes, enabling them to keep their social purpose pledges. The software also helps report on the engagement and impact, as it's really important to show your stakeholders how you're creating impact with your activities in order to get more engagement. Next to businesses, we're also offering our solution to local councils and the academia, but I won't go into that today. So I spent the past few years working on how we could create both a solution for organizations interested in engaging their stakeholders, but also create a wider global social impact network that would nurture collaboration and partnerships around shared goals and causes. As currently companies operate in silos with these programs, partnerships and collaboration opportunities can be quite difficult to identify. So I'm very excited that we'll soon be launching our platform. So yes, this was a quick summary of Goodsted and how it was born. And thankfully, I'm not alone. We are now a team of 10 working towards this vision, which I'm very grateful for. So our focus is on businesses to drive growth for the platform because there are 3 billion people employed around the world. Businesses have access to exceptional talent resources, which nonprofits and other impactful startups and organizations desperately need to progress social and environmental goals. 11 million people in the UK receive days off to volunteer. But due to many of these pain points, the average participation rate is only around 14%. There are millions of SMEs who need an easy way to get started as well. So by providing a solution to businesses, we're striving to make the platform financially sustainable while also opening it up as a global social impact network accessible to anyone who wants to sign up for free. Our ultimate aim being to increase the number of individuals participating in helping to progress good causes. So on this note, you may have heard of the Sustainable Development Goals. They are 17 goals that we're globally working towards achieving by 2030. 193 countries agreed on these back in 2015, and quite a few companies in the private sector have also taken them on board. However, a recent report published on their progress shows that we still have a long way to go. The UK is only on track to achieve 3 out of 17 goals. We need to increase the participation of all individuals and businesses to help progress them. And actually, it's in businesses' interest to contribute to these as well. Most businesses have profits as a key driver of growth. And what's suggested now and what's highlighted as the theme of this event is that when companies focus on a purpose that's rooted in creating value for others and improving the world we live in, the company actually prospers and grows even more sustainably. So purpose acts as a catalyst for innovation, opens up new opportunities, engages and motivates employees, and future-proofs the company against risks. So actually, there's a huge business case for purpose. Then aligning this purpose with the SDGs helps create a common dialogue with employees and other stakeholders, such as suppliers, customers, and other partners, and enables everyone to work together towards achieving specific goals. So how can businesses get started? First, it's important to align your purpose to the SDGs. Then look to improve internal processes and set strategic goals to meet the SDG ambition benchmarks, which I won't go into right now, but happy to share more info on later if you'd like to know. And finally, collaborate with others and provide support externally to progress these goals. So actually, the first two are really essential for businesses to do in order to start walking the talk. And there's a lot I can share on these as well. But for now, I will expand more on how businesses can get started with providing external support. So there are different ways to collaborate with others and provide external support, but one of the best ways actually to get started is engaging employees in a program where they can share their skills and time to progress the causes they care about, which also, of course, align with your brand purpose. Actually, there's a lot of research that explains the benefits behind this. For example, 83% of employees would be more loyal to a company that helps them contribute. As the disengagement rates in the UK are currently higher than 80%, this is an important aspect to consider. I won't, again, give all the data in this presentation, but here's a brief summary of all the benefits of engaging employees through volunteering. Improves well-being, contributes to satisfaction, loyalty, then has added benefits for skill development and enhancing your employer brand and attracting great talent. However, it may not be so easy just to get started with a program, as there are many things that can make it ineffective. So it'll be useful to share some pitfalls and best practices of running employee volunteering programs. And there was recently an article in the Harvard Business Review by Jessica Roddle on this. Maybe you have read it, and I think she really did a great job summing it up. Actually, it's backed with research and it's closely linked to my experience as well. So here are a few points that I thought would be worth sharing with you. So firstly, the rationale might be that if other firms are doing it, it must be effective, but it doesn't always work that way. The cut and paste approach can cause a disconnect between a company's mission, goals, and the program, lowering the intrinsic appeal to employees. And to be honest, this is true for all your stakeholders. Then often executives focus the program on their own personal charitable preferences. So the program reflects the priorities of top management, but these might not matter to employees. The reason why some employees don't participate might be the timing of the opportunities, or they might be demotivated by the opportunity itself. And research shows employees like to choose opportunities that they're interested in and that they feel they can contribute to meaningfully. And finally, although it's important to engage as many people as possible, it shouldn't be seen as being mandatory. Employees should choose to participate by feeling the intrinsic motivation and satisfaction, so it has to be balanced right. Otherwise, it can be seen as doing something to earn a reward or doing it not to get punished, which can have a negative impact on culture. So what are the best ways to encourage engagement? First of all, the volunteering experience must be seen as meaningful. Instead of just donating a few pounds to a charity and not seeing how you're actually helping, research shows that people devoted more time and effort when they were involved personally and believed that their efforts contributed in important ways. So when employees see purpose and value in what they're doing, when they have a sense of personal efficacy and control and feel a sense of self-worth, that's what will create a great program. Then the next important aspect is balancing employee input with top-down structure and upper management. Getting employees to shape the focus and features of a program, then supporting them with structure is a great way of doing this. Using the company's area of expertise and supporting causes also can create a lot of impact. And finally, on the best practices, a great way to increase effectiveness is to extend boundaries of the program beyond only involving employees. Instead, inviting other stakeholders to participate, such as contractors, suppliers, and customers. For example, a group of engineers from a construction firm might volunteer to improve accessibility for people with disabilities living in their residential homes, then inviting their suppliers to engage their employees as well, or having customers and employees of a company working together on a volunteering project. The research on this actually shows that these activities not only improve the connection and opinion of the company in the eyes of customers, but also helps spread the word to others. So in order to engage suppliers, customers, and partners in a program, there are 3 steps you can look at: defining what are the shared interest in causes and clarifying what type of causes would be good for your stakeholders to work on. Secondly, creating an easy and accessible process to engage them in activities. And finally, making sure to keep track of the progress and involvement to be able to report on the impact of the program as a whole. This will motivate everyone to take part even further once they see the impact created, and the intrinsic motivation will kick in. So it's all about walking the talk. So this is all from me. I hope the information I shared has been insightful. If you're keen to be a part of this movement to help progress the SDGs, align your brand purpose with them, engage employees and stakeholders to really activate your purpose and take tangible action, I'd love to hear from you. We're preparing to launch out of beta at the start of 2022, and we're looking for more businesses who are keen to participate. And next up, we have Cam from Aster Foundation. They're actually one of the first organizations to be using the Goodsted platform and have been amazing partners as we continue to develop the platform over the past year. I'd like to thank Cam actually personally for believing in me and being an inspiration to me every step of the way. So thank you, and over to you, Cam.
Thanks very much, Cillian. And you raised some fantastic points today. And actually, I felt myself, even just before I'm due to speak to you today, still scribbling down some things from you. So a huge, huge thanks to you. Hello, everybody. My name is Cameron Kinsella, and I'm the Aster Foundation Director. And it's an absolute pleasure to come and speak to you today. And can we have the next slide, please? So I work for Aster Housing Group, and Aster Housing Group is a social housing landlord and property developer that covers the south, central, west and east of the UK. We operate as a not-for-dividend business, aiming to generate a financial surplus each year that we can reinvest back into our organisation and communities, with a focus on building more new homes to address the housing crisis. We are spending around £2.1 billion on new housing development programmes in our 7-year plan. This across a mix of tenure types, which will be used to build approximately 10,000 homes for those in need. Now, for those that don't know the history of social housing, housing associations first emerged in the 19th century as wealthy philanthropists, appalled by the terrible conditions of many people who were living and working, and they had an understanding that a healthy workforce would prove to be a productive workforce. Nothing new there. So they stepped in to provide better conditions themselves, and this actually formed the basis of what went on to become the social housing sector, and what we at Aster are really proud to be part of. Serving over 100,000 customers from diverse backgrounds, each with their own stories to tell, having roughly 1,400 colleagues in a variety of roles, working towards our social ambition of everyone has a home. Today's presentation was titled Authenticity and Purpose, and I really can't stress enough the importance of being authentic and having integrity when defining your organisation's social purpose. A purpose should be embedded from the whole of the organisation inside out, and it will only translate if it is authentic. Next slide, please. So talking about authenticity and the translation of a purpose, I'll never forget the story of when JFK went to visit NASA and saw a janitor there. And I know many of you on the call today will have heard the story, I'm sure. JFK asked the janitor what he did at NASA, and his reply was that he was there to help put a man on the moon. This, for me, was a light bulb moment. It was an incredible example of when colleagues are able to connect with and understand a purpose. Now, in this current job market, purpose is integral in being able to attract and retain talent, and in the process, achieve greater results and impact for those that you serve. Now, a business with a social purpose is a company whose reason for being, its absolute being, is to create a better world. It's a force for good, creating environmental or societal benefits by the very act of conducting business. Now, its growth or profitability, meaning that it can be an even greater positive force in society. And for us at Aster, our social purpose being that of addressing the housing crisis through providing homes to those in need. Also in setting up the Aster Foundation, which enables people to sustain those homes and improve lives when life challenges get in the way. Next slide, please. Now, I mentioned earlier that I lead the Aster Foundation, and this is part of the Aster Group. The foundation was created by Aster in response to government welfare policy changes around about 2016, and also due to increasing inequalities across the UK and also Aster communities. It was even a great way to highlight the additional work carried out by the group on top of being a social housing landlord, and also as a way to create social impact in places which needed it the most. Now, we've actually operated as a department within Aster for nearly 3 years now, and within this time, positively impacted the lives of thousands of people. After seeing positive trends in areas such as colleague engagement and customer satisfaction, and also stakeholder analyses, and least of all, not to forget the impact of the pandemic across our communities, we're now in the process of becoming a registered charitable entity, and are doing this so that we can amplify our impact, further enabling the better lives of at least 40,000 people by 2030, and that's our vision. Now, even though the Aster Foundation will be an independent charity, we'll support Aster's purpose of ensuring everyone has a home by creating impact programmes which will enable people to sustain those homes when life challenges get in the way. Now, when I say life or social challenges, these include things like unemployment, financial exclusion, digital exclusion, homelessness, loneliness and isolation, and also ill mental health. Next slide, please. Now, the nature of these programmes that I've just spoken about is quite reactive. usually getting involved when things go wrong in somebody's life. And so we also work to address the root of social challenges through our social incubator called INC. Our award-nominated programme, which is the first of its kind in the social housing sector in the UK and a real disruptor in the community space. It amplifies the impact of emerging entrepreneurs who want to transform the world across the challenges that I've just noted. We also have the Academy, which is specifically created for social housing customers to serve as positive action to develop the entrepreneurial capabilities across communities who don't usually access programs like these for various reasons, which to me makes no sense at all. Who is more entrepreneurial than the person balancing multiple jobs, a family, keeping the lights on and still feeding your children? We're hopeful that our work in the Academy will create a talent pipeline of entrepreneurs across areas of deprivation across our country that we can support. People with lived experience of the most common and most prevalent social challenges to come up with solutions to challenge these issues. Because if we only do things the way that they've always been done, we'll only get what we've always had, inequality. Now, we're looking to make huge changes in this space, and we're looking for partners who wish to help us and to deliver our vision with us. But importantly, those people need to have a purpose that aligns with our own. Next slide, please. Now, you see, for us at Aster, our purpose is everything that we do. We are our purpose. Now, the origin of purpose and its overlap with corporate and social responsibility can make people really wary of a business's motives, and I'm sure you will have seen that yourselves. While a company's purpose doesn't need to impact everything in society and make a positive difference to society as a whole, authenticity is key. Deloitte actually carried out a survey, I think it was around 2019, which showed one of the top 3 reasons that a customer actually engages with a brand is down to how they support the communities that they operate within. More people than ever before care about why you do what you do and how. And with a world that's more connected than ever before, they can also tell other consumers or beneficiaries about this too. Our authenticity at Aster is delivering huge benefits. 94% of our 1,400 colleagues in our most recent colleague survey stated that they understood what our purpose was. 89% said that they understood how their work contributed towards Aster's goals. 91% said that they'd recommend Aster as a great place to work. 81% said that they'd still be working with us in the next 2 years. And 89% said that their leader genuinely cares about their well-being. And this is because we deliver the same wellness opportunities across our workforce that we do across our communities. Integrity. We also recently commissioned a perception survey, and it was a study which was designed to gauge key stakeholders' views about Aster. The number of respondents agreeing that Aster makes a positive contribution across the communities it serves has grown from 79% in 2019 to 91% this year. And that's a year where we've really accelerated our purpose-driven work and accelerated and delivered the first Inc cohort. Our customers also feel the same. They've given us a good Net Promoter Score, and whilst we also saw satisfaction increase during COVID, our satisfaction increased because our communities could actually see that we walk the walk in times of unprecedented challenge. Last slide, please. In a world full of choices, organisations who are authentically leading with purpose are finding new ways to deliver value to the communities that they work within. By leading with purpose, being authentic in how we tell our stories, articulating our impact in a language that people actually understand and care about, and also being inclusive in our approach. Many of us are leaving a positive impact in the world whilst making increased profit at the same time. Now, when I personally reflect on the last 20 months, a worldwide pandemic, which none of us could have foreseen, and a future ahead, which is really uncertain, the one thing that I am absolutely certain of is that we can all do more to make a difference in the world. And why wouldn't we when the results speak for themselves? Don't get left behind. Be the leader who inspires every single person to work towards the same goal, a goal which makes a positive impact on individuals, your business, and also the community. Be the leader who creates a culture of change makers who are passionate about the world that we live in and its future. And be the leader who seeks out other purpose-driven organisations whose social ambitions align with yours. Many hands make light work. So I look forward to working with some of you, and you should see my details in the corner of the slide. I look forward to working with you further. Now, I am going to be handing across to another one of our fantastic colleagues, Harish. He's going to be talking to you more about purpose through his eyes too. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, thank you, Cam. Thank you very much. What a wonderful presentation that was. I represent the Tata Group, and thanks to Brand Finance for inviting me to speak about the Tata Group and the purpose that we have brought to the table over the years. A brief word of introduction about Tata. If we can move to the next slide, please. We are a global business group of Indian origin, present in 150 countries, with group revenues exceeding $100 billion. Our market cap of our listed companies is $300 billion US. We have 800,000 employees across the world, 4 million shareholders, about 900 million consumers who buy our products and services, and we are India's most valuable and most trusted brand. Now, we are a large conglomerate. If you can move to the next slide, please. The number of products which Tata markets, some of them would be familiar to you in the UK and Europe, like Jaguar and Land Rover vehicles, or Tata Consultancy Services, or Tetley Tea. But if you come to India, you will find many, many more products that are marketed by the Tata Group. You will find wristwatches and jewelry and eyewear. You will find the Tata Group present in hospitality and hotels, in aviation, in consumer durables and air conditioning, in retailing of garments, consumer goods like tea and salt across the country, and in financial services like life insurance. And we also run Starbucks stores in India. So the whole host of products and services that we are associated with. And the group is today seen as India's largest industrial group. But the story of purpose that I want to narrate of the Tata Group goes back 153 years. Can I go to the next slide, please? We were founded by a Parsi merchant of Mumbai called Jamshedji Tata, whose photograph you see here. And he founded this group with a philosophy that in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder, but it has to be the very purpose of its existence. He made the community the purpose of the Tata Group's existence. And how did he achieve this? Can I go to the next slide, please? Here you see Jamshedji Tata, his two sons and his nephew. What they did between his sons and Jamshedji Tata is 66% of the equity shareholding of our parent company, Tata Sons, was transferred to Tata Charitable Trust. And even until today, 66% of our equity shareholding is held by the Tata Charitable Trust. What does this mean? This means that 66% of all dividends issued by our parent company go to the Tata Charitable Trust, who then use them for the community in ways that I will illustrate in later slides. This is quite unique. It gives a unique purpose to the organization because the Tata business is majority held by Tata Charitable Trust, who are committed to the cause of the community. What do the Tata Charitable Trusts do? What have they done for the nation, for India, and now across many other parts of the world? The three institutions you see here are some of India's finest institutions. The Indian Institute of Science, which is India's finest science university, was founded by Jamshedji Tata. The Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, which is India's leading center of research in mathematics and computer science, was founded by the Tata Charitable Trust. The National Center for the Performing Arts, perhaps India's finest location for the arts, theater, and the performing arts together, was once again, founded by the Tata Charitable Trust. These are just three illustrations, but some of India's finest institutions have come to life through this driving purpose of wanting to give back to the community, and that's happened from the dividends and profits that the Tata Group has been able to generate. Some of these were founded 100 years ago, some 50 years ago, some 25 years ago. But if we can move to the next slide, A little bit about what the Tata Charitable Trusts are doing today. Can you click on the slide, please? Cancer is a huge scourge in India, and therefore the Tata Charitable Trusts had, in 1940s, they had created Asia's and India's first comprehensive cancer care hospital. In 2012, they created a huge cancer care hospital on the eastern side of the country in Calcutta. And now the Tata Charitable Trusts are engaged in establishing cancer hospitals in collaboration with various Indian states across the country in India. So that's one example of how the Tata Charitable Trusts use the money which is available to them, particularly important in a developing country like India. And these hospitals provide cancer care to thousands and lakhs of patients. If I can move to the next slide. It's not just healthcare in cancer. Last year, when COVID-19 came upon our lives, I think unannounced and unwelcome, the Tata Group pledged more than $250 million to the fight against COVID care in the country. What was done with that money? I think there were greenfield hospitals and isolation centers for COVID care, which were created. You see one of them here in the state of Odisha in India, but a greenfield hospital came up at Kasaragod in the southern state of Kerala, and more than 2,000 hospital beds in various parts of the country. Similarly, I think those pledged funds were used to provide meals to more than 4 million Indian migrant workers who had lost jobs because of the first stage of the pandemic. Rooms in the Taj Group of hotels, which is India's luxury hotel chain run by the Tata Group, were converted into recovery rooms with oxygen facilities for patients to recover from the coronavirus. More than 1.1 million protective kits were handed out, 11 million masks and gloves, more than 1,500 ventilators were gifted to various hospitals across the country, and the airlines of the Tata Group also took across ferried many of these across the country itself. So the sense of purpose which I mentioned to you, which was created by Jamshedji Tata, a founder, in the year 1868, 153 years back, has permeated the group over the past 15 decades. And some of the illustrations you see here are examples of how that purpose has flown. If you can move to the next slide, please. It's not just healthcare. The Tata Group has contributed significantly to the community through sports as well. The Tata Archery Academy, many of the archers you see there on top of your screen, are champions who have represented India in the Commonwealth Games and the Olympics. In fact, India's entry to the Olympic Games was steered by the second chairman of the Tata Group, Sir Dorabji Tata, who sponsored the first ever Indian team to the Antwerp Olympics of 1920. The Tata Hockey Academy, Naval Tata Hockey Academy that you see at the bottom of the screen in Jamshedpur, creates hockey champions for the future. The Tata Football Academy, you see on the right-hand side of your screen, once again going towards developing football in the country. The Tata Mountaineering Academy, you see on the left-hand top side of your screen, explores mountaineering and champions mountaineering in the country. The Invictus Games, of which Jaguar Land Rover has been the presenting partner since 2014, contributes to the community in a very different way by itself. And many of you must have heard of the TCS New York Marathon, now TCS is also going to be the sponsor of the London Marathon starting next year, or the Tata Mumbai Marathon. There are a number of marathon events which are really participative events that are organized by the Tata Group across the world, once again in the area of fitness and health, which is also a key contribution to the community. Tata Steel organizes in Europe and India its annual chess tournament to spur the development of chess across the country. So, whether it is institutions in the country, whether it is healthcare, whether it's sports, I think the Tata Group has found multiple ways to contribute back to the community, which remains its purpose. So on the one hand, I'm very proud that we are a group which is prospering and growing from strength to strength, profitable, market leader in over 14 different market segments in India. But I believe that strength has come because of this purpose of contributing back to the community. And it's kind of exemplified by the words of a gentleman who was our chairman for over 50 years, J.R.D. Tata. Can I move to the next slide, please? And these lines that he spoke kind of exemplifies the purpose of the group. He said the cycle is complete when what came from the people goes back to the people many times over. And on behalf of the Tata Group, thank you very much for listening to this presentation. I've tried to exemplify what our purpose is and why as a group, I believe the Tata brand has grown from strength to strength. If you go to the next slide, that's the Tata brand for you. India's largest and most valued brand since 1868. We talk of ourselves as leadership with trust, but I think leadership with trust has to be earned. And it has been earned by that innate purpose, which has been the backbone of our group for the past 150 years. Thank you very much.
Lovely. Thank you so much to all our speakers today. And now, of course, we'd like to provide the opportunity for all our attendees to participate in a question and answer session with you. I'm now going to hand over to Robert Haig, who will be leading the discussion. Thanks, Rob.
Hello, everyone. Very good to have you here. So I'd just like to start the Q&A by thanking our speakers, Celine, Cam and Harish, again for their excellent presentations. And I'll take as many questions as I can from the delegates, but I'd just like to start with one of my own, if that's all right. And this is a two-parter for all of the speakers. Perhaps if we start with Harish and then pass it around. So as David mentioned at the beginning, this is Brand Finance's 25th year. So I'm just keen to get a sense from you of how you feel brand purpose has sort of evolved over those 25 years, both in terms of how important it is to customers and other stakeholders, and also even what we mean by brand purpose. We've heard a lot about social and environmental causes, but one of our delegates was saying that there perhaps used to be a more commercial aspect to what we mean by brand purpose. So if you could sort of just share your thoughts on that would be great.
So Robert, would you like me to begin?
Yes, please. Yeah, if you're happy to. So, the evolution of brand purpose, and I speak here from primarily perhaps an Indian context, but also globally. I think brand purpose has become even more important than ever. I agree with what Celine and Cam were speaking in their presentations. The reason I think is more consumers today, more people today want to buy into brands which are doing some good. And there's no one definition of doing good. You can do good in many areas. There are so many parts of the UN Charter. I find this particularly of younger consumers in India. They want to buy into brands which are doing good. They want to work for brands which are doing good. That's perhaps changed from one generation or two generations back. The second is brands are integrating brand purpose. Earlier there was a sense of philanthropy and also contributing to charitable causes from brands. Today, brands are integrating brand purpose into what the brand really stands for. It's integral to the brand and not just a philanthropic or a charitable arm. Those are two big moments, Robert, that I've seen over the past 25 years. Great, thank you. Then if I could just put the same question to Celine and then Cam as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I totally agree, Harish. And what I could add to that, I guess, is also the increase of the internet and the social media use by the younger generations. Now everyone is talking about everything. And so brands need to take more action. They can't just talk about things because people will hear about how they're not taking action if they don't do anything about it after they talk about it. So it's very important to organize effective programs and walk the talk. And I think it's becoming even more important than it was 25 years ago. So
and I completely agree with both of you. I think I saw one of the messages that popped up in the chat, and your social purpose or mission is where you articulate what you do and the difference that you can also make in the world in the same place. Like I alluded to in my presentation, it needs to be authentic, but there is not one way of doing this. It could be societal, it could be environmental, it could be anything that means something to you and your identity as an organisation. One of the key things, I guess, that we can add to this is that conversation around profit and also purpose. They are not mutually exclusive. They are also inextricably linked. And I think research was actually carried out around 2003 now, so a long while back, at both Harvard and Stanford on this topic, and it revealed a significant fact that the most successful companies, both in profitability and also in longevity, are the ones who recognise the absolute necessity of profit, as well as the equally high necessity of having a purpose beyond shareholder wealth, for example. We at Aster, what I was speaking about before, is we are not for dividend business. So we aim to generate financial surplus each year that we can reinvest back into our organisation and communities. We do that because it's authentic to us. It's from our genesis of who we've been and are as an organisation. And I think if we're looking at where we've been historically as to where we are now, and quite rightly picking up from what Celine said, there are a lot more people to hold us to account and who will be able to spot when you aren't being authentic. So I think that's the really important thing. Do something which means something for your people and your organisation and your actual identity.
Thank you very much. Well, but perhaps with my next question, taking an even longer range view, there are many brands, Tata included, who have been around a lot longer than 25 years. And over the course of that time span, the things that society places importance on, whether social or environmental, can evolve. So do brands have to evolve their brand purpose in response to that, or should there be continuity regardless of what may be the most pressing issue of the day? And maybe if we do that one in reverse order.
Sorry, Robert, you cut out halfway through there for me with my wonderful internet connection.
Oh, sorry, but no, it's probably me. I was just saying that some brands, have been around for a lot longer than brand finance has. So, over 100 years in Tata's case, and over a time span of that length, the things that society values that may be important as part of a brand's purpose may change. How do you respond to that? Do you have to have some level of continuity in terms of what your brand purpose is, or respond in a very agile way to what the pressing issues are at the time?
I think it's key. I think picking up actually on some of Celine's presentation earlier today, where she was speaking about the importance of engaging with your colleagues and also with your consumers and customers. Absolutely, there needs to be some continuity, because your brand, it will evolve throughout the years, but you do have an identity for who you are and what you do, and that's what you want to convey through the social purpose that you deliver. There will be elements of that you will want colleague engagement with, or even customer engagement, just to make sure that how you are delivering what you're doing is in a way in which people can engage with. So absolutely, level of continuity, but the way at which you may deliver that may change.
Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, the same to Celine.
Yeah, so just following on from what Cam said, definitely continuity is the most important, but then also as you engage employees and customers, you can't restrict what they want to support as well. And that's why that flexibility in your kind of purpose perhaps is important. So you can't just stop at employees passionately supporting causes that they care about in that specific moment in time, because that may be personally important to them, and companies should support and enable and encourage those actions to be taken as well, and then still continue that brand purpose, overarching brand purpose that they have.
So Robert, I agree with what Cam and Celine have said. I think continuity is essential, because there is an idea of the brand in consumers' minds, and that idea cannot fracture. You can evolve it. So continuity is very, very important. But I also believe evolution is important, because what's required by the community or what's required by our stakeholders may change. So just to illustrate this through the Tata Group's purpose, commitment to the community has always been our purpose, and I believe will always be into the future. But if, for instance, the key ask of India 100 years back was to have a university of science, today the key ask may also be in the area of environmental sustainability, carbon emission targets, the way you contribute to the community. So it's still around the idea of the community, but how you do it may change, even though the purpose may stay constant. So I agree with both my co-panelists that there needs to be continuity and evolution both.
Well, that's a very useful segue actually into my next question. We've discussed the fact that COP26 is coming up next week in Glasgow. So, with that being the case, we couldn't fail to ask a question on climate. So how important would you say addressing climate change and demonstrating commitment to that is as part of brand purpose today?
I would say, Robert, very important. Whether it's in India or the rest of the world, I think climate change, carbon emission targets have become critically important to our world going forward. And when I spoke of evolution of the Tata Group's purpose, today, many Tata Group companies have public carbon emission targets. Tata Chemicals has embraced science-based targets for 2030. TCS is aiming for net zero emissions by 2030. Jaguar Land Rover has submitted a commitment to sign up to SBTi and indicated it would achieve net zero carbon emissions across its supply chain, products and operations by 2039. Tata Power intends to achieve carbon neutrality before 2050. Tata Steel Europe is also aiming to be carbon neutral by 2050. I'm just giving you a few illustrations from Tata Group companies. So it is very, very critical, because I believe that climate change is one of the big issues that is facing humanity already and will continue to face us in the future. No doubt about it.
Celine and Cam, would you care to?
Yeah, I mean, for me, whatever your brand purpose is, climate needs to be a part of it as well, because climate is about survival. We need to save the world, kind of thing. So we need to do whatever we can to decrease our carbon emissions and try to meet the net zero, although it can be difficult. And then internally, the companies really need to make the change in order to make it happen. And there's a lot of like greenwashing going on in terms of trying to use it as a bit of a marketing technique to, show that your brand is caring about climate change. But, customers and employees do understand that if you don't do anything and just talk about it and do something very minimal, it's not effective in either way. So companies really need to measure, take tangible action, involve employees to take the actions as well, to make them feel integrated into this mission, and talk about the results.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. To be honest, Celine, when I was speaking earlier within my presentation, I spoke about a report that was delivered by Deloitte, in which they said the top 3 reasons. Now, I said the reason number 3 was actually how they supported communities. The reason number 1 for customers engaging with the brand was actually what organisations were doing for the environment. So there's absolutely the need to do it in that respect. I mean, for us at Aster, we're taking quite a pragmatic approach. We've undertaken an assessment of what's required to ensure our homes can achieve net zero by 2050. And this review, alongside considering and identifying costs around things like fire safety, a newly mandated decent home standard, and we're also trying to work out the best approach to ensure that we can deliver all of these improvements alongside delivering that social purpose, which is around, delivering more homes to those people that need it. We've also been through our incubator and Inca cohort, working with really exciting startups who've got exciting ideas around how they can, reduce construction carbon, because construction and development as an industry uses more than any other. So it's definitely something we are focused on, but I think it's doing it in a way in which is meaningful for your organisation, you've really got to understand where you are. So do your benchline assessment to understand where it's feasible for you to get to, so that you don't fall off the trail on the way there by making promises that you can't keep. And at the end of the day, it's not necessarily about a number per se, it's about doing something which makes a valid and real, tangible difference that you're able to bring people along on that journey and move them with as well.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Well, I just have a quick question specifically for Harish here about Tata. So Tata is India's most valuable brand, and but it's also one of the strongest in a number of categories internationally. So Harish, I was just wondering if you could expand on how purpose has helped to bring Tata into that position in so many categories and so many markets outside of India, as well as in their own market.
Yeah, I think, Robert, that's an interesting question. And my belief is that the Tata brand has become much, much stronger over the course of the past 15 decades because of the purpose that has flown through the brand. And let me just explain it like this. You know, people have seen this brand exist now for 153 years, 15 decades, and constantly contributing in one way or the other to the community. And there's been a consistency to that, okay, which those of us who are in the Tata Group now need to live up to, even as we convey this to our future generations. So when you're very consistent with a brand purpose, and that brand purpose has something to do about doing good to the community around you, whether it's through healthcare or establishing universities or sports, all the things that I spoke about, I believe that, you know, the level of trust in consumers' minds builds up. And when that level of trust builds up, your brand certainly becomes stronger. So the underpinning of purpose has been crucial, I would say, to the manner in which the Tata brand has evolved over these 153 years.
Great, thank you. So I think we've probably got time for just a couple more questions. So another question for all three of you. You know, besides your own brands or the brands you've worked with directly, are there any that you regard as sort of leaders in terms of brand purpose or in addressing the fundamentals of, say, the Sustainable Development Goals? Perhaps I'll put that first to Celine.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing a lot of FMCG companies like Unilever and P&G take on a huge role in supporting the UN SDGs through the work they do with their consumer brands. And then also within the past year, we worked a lot with the Aster Foundation and seeing them really support their customers by involving their employees and selecting really specific cost categories that align with the SDGs was great to see, like a real example in front of my eyes working really well. And there are a few other impact startups that I'm happy to kind of share a link to on the chat later on, but this is kind of, yeah, my insights.
Great, and then the same question to Cam.
There's quite a few. I think Celine picked up Unilever. They've been doing it for an awful long time, and they're a great example of where you've got consistency but also evolution. So take a look at them. A newish one, I guess, that I'm really interested in and really excites me is eBay's new collaboration with the charity work that they're doing. It almost kind of, it's a straddle of the line between CSR and social purpose. So I'm interested to see how that evolves through time. But they've really looked at how they operate as an organisation. They're there to enable people to sell things through their platform. So rather than doing something that's almost kind of stuck on the side to what they do, they've just enabled users to be able to add charitable donations onto buying things from those charitable organisations. So a really simple tweak and change to enable them to do more social good. So that's another kind of new and emerging one that's developing now. But also, and in a very sloppy way, I do have to say both of my panelists today, some of the work, when I was looking at, Harish and what they've achieved there, I think that's really quite exciting. And Celine, her plans for the future as well. But I would say that because I can see them both there next to me on the screen.
So, Harish, did you have anything to add, or shall I just squeeze in one final question?
Well, why don't you go ahead to your next question?
Okay, sure. So yeah, my final question, we've spoken a lot about sort of external perceptions and communication of brand purpose, but one important stakeholder group is employees. So how would you say, or what would you say is sort of best practice in terms of making employees buy into your brand purpose and be sort of agents for communicating it? And also, how important is brand purpose in attracting and engaging those employees with your brand and organization?
So Robert, let me take a stab at that question. I think I go back to the example which was narrated earlier in this discussion about John F. Kennedy and his visit to NASA. And I think Cam mentioned that, and she spoke about a janitor saying that his purpose there was to put a man on the moon. I think it's very, very important for purpose. Purpose motivates employees, inspires them to contribute to the organization overall. Let me tell you from my own example, I've been working with the Tata Group for 34 years now. And one of the key reasons I've done it is because I believe this group truly contributes something back to the community. And I know that's true of many, many of my colleagues across Tata Group companies. To me, I think one best practice in brand purpose, at least from the Tata Group side, I would say, is that, we kind of, our purpose comes from the reason why our founder created us. So each year we go back to our founder and celebrate our founder and what he stood for. When you do that, the stories of what he did, why he did what he did, and why he built the Tata Group like he did, I think permeate down the organization and are able to inspire many more people. But that's just one best practice. I think there has to be a lot of communication in the organization for brand purpose to actually come, in tangible terms get expressed rather than in conceptual terms.
Thank you. Cam?
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, I always think about how I feel going to work every single day. And when I say going to work currently, as you can see, I'm working from home, as we all have been, but I absolutely love my work because it's purpose driven. And I want every single person that works within our organization to feel that way. That fantastic feeling of making a difference. There's really nothing quite like it. So it's absolutely important when it comes to engaging your colleagues in respect of purpose. Now at Aster, we embed our purpose through our decision making, our work, our recruitment. We also create informal opportunities of engagement through our volunteering programme, which Celine's spoken about earlier, is delivered in partnership with Goodsted. But we also have, more structured development opportunities to align our colleagues to our social mission and our purpose. And this is through enabling colleagues to develop their skills and also progress so that they're not just getting involved with the Aster Foundation to do something good, unless they really want to, but we can actually give them structured development to enable them to progress within their careers as well, so that there's something in it for them. And for example, colleagues who supported us with our social incubation work developed at least 8 leadership skills, and some of them have gone on to secure roles around the organisation and some within leadership roles as well. So I just think in the same way that we marry up kind of profit and purpose, there's also that mutually beneficial relationship between the development of an organisation and the development of a purpose and development of a person through aligning your purpose as well.
Great. And then final word to Celine.
Yeah, not much more to add to that, I guess, but I would say what we've seen in the past couple of years is that it's quite effective to enable employees to be able to use their skills and expertise that they perhaps already use at work to use them to progress a certain cause. And in order to activate the company's brand purpose, when employees take part in, let's say, they're really good at marketing and then they help an impact startup progressing the climate agenda, on creating their first marketing strategy. That can be really impactful, and we've had a lot of amazing like feedback and recommendations from the employees who took part in these types of activities, that they felt so energized and motivated to continue working for their company, and it actually makes a lot of difference. So
great. Well, thanks so much again to all three of our speakers, and I'll now just hand over to David for our final words. Thanks very much again.
Yes, I'd like to add my thanks to our three speakers. That was great. I mean, two relatively young organizations and a very eminent older organization demonstrating just what can be achieved through purpose. What it really stimulated in me is a thought that in the end, it comes down to how genuine and authentic this good purpose is within the culture of the organization. And it stimulates a thought in me as to how does one refine that and how does one maintain that? Because let's face it, purpose is currently very trendy. And I think a lot of, bandwagon hoppers are jumping on the bandwagon. What really marks out a company with purpose is whether it continues to do what it says it will do, even in times of hardship. And I think if you look at Tata, they have really walked the talk for 150 years. Even when they were losing money, they didn't sack people. Even when things were tough, they didn't go back on what they said, because deep in their core, they believe in what they are saying. And that's why Tata is such a fantastic organization and has got so much to teach the rest of the world. Anyway, I'll get off my love affair with Tata. Ever since we've been in India, I thought it was a marvelous organization. What I'd like to say is thanks a lot, and thank you very much to our partners. And I hope everyone who's on the call will come in to the final one of our speeches, which our forums, which is on the 25th of November. And in fact, it's rather apposite that one is going to be about the rise of Asian brands over the last 25 years. I think it's fair to say that 25 years ago, people in the West considered Japanese cars and electronics as a good thing. But apart from that, most Asian brands were not really considered much at all. And I have to say, I think people grossly overlooked Tata as a great organization. Here we are 25 years later, and the talk is all about Asian brands. So I hope you'll come and join us for a discussion about what they are contributing and will contribute, and their continued rise, both the Indian brands and the Chinese brands, and what effect that will have on the world of branding. So I hope you'll come and join us, and thanks everyone for being here. Thanks again, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you very much, David. And I'd just like to thank all our speakers for the very insightful presentations and interesting discussion today. To confirm and just remind, our webinars are available to view on the Brand Finance YouTube channel, and this webinar recording will be circulated to all registered delegates tomorrow afternoon. I'd like to take this opportunity to invite you again to our next Global Forum webinar on the 25th of November. The link has been posted in the chat. And if you'd like any further information on the topic discussed today or how to register for upcoming events, please email events@brandfinance.com. Thank you so much again for joining us today, and we look forward to reconnecting with you all very soon. Thank you.